Hello, Gary Simon of DesignCourse.com. Today we're going to get started with the second portion of our photo manipulation in Photoshop CC. So of course, if you need access to all the project files and the resource files, they're available for free in the description below this video. All right, let's get started. All right, so let's continue on with our War is Hell photo manipulation. So now what I want to do is get in an image, an asset that we can use to kind of create a ground right here. So that image is right here. And we're going to use the, let's see here, the 1600 version. So right click, copy image. And we will go to just above, just click right on the background layer, Control V to paste that in. All right, so a lot of adjustments need to be made to this as well, of course. So let's go ahead and go to Image Adjustments, Desaturate. And I'm going to get rid of, with our square marquee tool, just a rectangular marquee tool rather, and just hit delete after selecting the top portion. And then we'll get an adjustment layer for the brightness and contrast. And right around there, so negative 126 and 98 for the contrast. So I'll also make sure that you're only selected on that layer. All right, so we'll call this ground real quick. And then what I want to do is take the eraser tool and use a brush maybe right around 367 for the radius. And we're just going to slowly just kind of erase around the edges. Kind of just like that. So let me zoom up to see this. All right. All right, so let's see here. Basically, I'm not going to start working on the center too much yet, with exception, to the ground I just added. Basically, now what I want to do is get some flag images. All right, so those flag images, let me get out real quick. Right here. And so you can find that in the description. And I'm going to use just this default large 1024, right click, copy image, and oops. We'll go to the top layer and just paste this in. And then once again, we'll use the pen tool with path selected up top, and we will go around this very quickly. So I'm not too worried about being 100% precise, although you can if you wish. Obviously, if you're doing this for a serious project, you want to get in there a lot closer and just make sure you're cutting everything out correctly and on point. Right click, make selection, hit OK, Control Shift I, Control C, and Control D to deselect, and then hit delete. All right, so I'll paste that in, hit Control T, hold, and then just rotate it so it looks like it's on the ground. And also hit Shift and Alt and scale that down. We'll put it right around there. Select the Move tool, hit Apply. All right, so I'll rename this to flag 1, and we'll go to Image Adjustments, Desaturate. Okay, give it an adjustment for brightness and contrast. All right, and that's good. I'm going to move on to the next flag, and you can get that link in the description. Right click, copy image, and I'm not choosing any specific country's flag for any reason. There's just ones that were kind of good images to use if we're going to manipulate them to look like they're on the ground. All right, so Well, oops, I'm just gonna hit don't apply. That was an accident. Move this up so we can see the whole thing. And then once again, perform this tedious task. Although for this image, since you probably could have used the background eraser tool, that's no problem though. I can kind of just go pretty quickly. But yeah, if you select your eraser tool or left click and drag out on top of that eraser tool, there is a background eraser tool that you could probably use, which might be quicker. Control Shift I, Control C, Control D, and then hit delete, and then just paste that in. All right, so I'm going to zoom out here. I'm going to go to Image Adjustments, Desaturate, Control T, hold the Alt key, and then drag that in, and then hit Shift to scale that in. And then I'll put this maybe one over here. Select Move Tool, hit Apply, and we'll call this Flag 2. And we will give it an adjustment layer. Right around there, looks pretty good. All right, and we'll continue on with our third flag, which is, let me find it. Right, whoa. That's not good. I think I moved that around a little bit too much. Made everything hide on my desktop. Yeah, it's right here. Okay. No, it's not. That's the one from before. Sorry about that. Irritating. Right there. Right click, copy image. Control V to paste. I think this is the Iranian flag. All right, take the path. Right click, make selection, hit OK, Control Shift I or Command Shift I, and Control C, Control D, and hit delete and paste that in. All right, same thing, image adjustments, desaturate, and we will hit Control T, just flatten that by holding Alt, scale that in. And right around there. And then we'll take the adjustment layer for brightness and contrast. Right around there. All right. So let me zoom out. So far, so good. Let's continue on. And let me get out my notes here, because I have all these linked, basically. And then take this. This is another one. Wait, is that the one we used already? Looks like it. Let me... All right, this is the right one right here. I'm going to go over here, select download all sizes, right click, copy image. Control V to paste. All right, path. It's okay if it's cut off there. It's not that big of a deal. You kind of want to stay inside so you're not getting into that blue, the light blue at least. If you go in, that's not that big of a deal. You can't really tell if you go in too much. So right click, make selection, hit OK. Control Shift I and Control C. Control D, delete, Control V. Control T, scale this down, holding Shift and Alt. Hit Apply, and then once again, image adjustments, desaturate. I know this is so tedious. So you basically want them to look like they're in the same brightness and contrast. All right, so basically now what I want to do is move those around a little bit. Get rid of that. So I'm going to take, I'm going to rename this to flag 3 and then flag 4 up here. And I'm going to, yeah, the first one, I think that's a pretty good position right around here. The second one, holding shift, selecting both of these, will be possibly right around there. Third one. And then the fourth one. Okay, so basically just a couple flags here, a few flags. Now what I want to do is get some interesting stuff here in the center. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm just going to call this, it's kind of like blood/fire. So these are free blood spatter brushes, which is also linked in the description. And what I want to do is, yeah, these are them right here. You want to find kind of the right ones here. I think I use that. So red is in our foreground color. We have to scale this down, probably to around, I'm going to try 700. And then just click once like that. Hit Control T. And then hold Alt and drag that down there in the center, right around there. Hit Apply. I'm going to zoom up here to 100%. And I'm going to Control-Shift-N, hit Fire 2 for a new layer. I'm going to try a different brush this time. Okay. Take that down to 700. Hit Control-T. All right, and hit Apply. All right, and then above those layers, so select the top layer, Control-Shift-N for a new layer. We'll call this Glow. We'll take our brush tool, take a large feather brush, not quite 700 though. All right, more like around 367. Click once in the center, Control-T. Hold Alt and drag this out. Hit Apply. All right, and I'm going to try Overlay. Actually, I'm going to go down the list here. So basically, you select Normal, hit your down arrow key, and you can experiment with various glows. Soft light looks pretty good. And color looks pretty good as well. I'm going to use color for that. All right, so now what we want to do is kind of add some highlights on these individuals. So it looks like they're being illuminated from the back from this portion over here. So what we want to do is hit Control and left click, and that will automatically select around the layer for there. And what I want to do is create a new layer on top of the last clipping mask. So Control-Shift-N, let's call it Highlight, and make sure it's a clipping mask. And what we want to do is take our brush tool. We'll try around 25 initially. We'll change this layer to an overlay. And as you can see what I'm doing, I'm zooming up here, and you kind of want to get, I'm going to go down to 13. You kind of want to get down, just kind of just like that slightly, so it looks like they're being illuminated. All right, and then what I want to do is go even smaller, around 6. Maybe even make a tad bit smaller, around 4 for the size. And go around some of these individuals. and just try to make it look natural. All right, I'm just kind of seeing if there's anything else. You know, you could spend a lot of time working on this, but you get the idea. All right, so now what we want to do is I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, holding Alt. And if it's standing out a little bit too much and looks too prominent, basically you can take the eraser tool with an opacity, maybe around 40. Or you can also take the opacity of the layer down. I should probably do that. It's non-destructive, but that's okay. All right, so that looks pretty decent. And now we got to do the same thing for these guys. So yeah, let me take the brush. Start off a little bit larger, around 20. And there's soldiers 1, I believe. Yes. Control-Shift-N for a new layer. Create a clipping mask. And now the, which also changes to overlay. Now these individuals, they're to the right of kind of where all the fire is. So I'm going to focus on adding the highlights to the right side of their body. Come down in size, or like 5. All right. All right, so, all right, let me go ahead and zoom out here. Take the opacity down slightly, around 69, that's what I've done. And then we also got to get these individuals in the back some color. So they're at the back here, so where are they at? Well, I'll select layer, just click. Okay, they're right there. All right, so on top of that adjustment layer, Control-Shift-N, create a clipping mask layer, and we'll call this highlight. And basically, they don't look kind of correct when they're all 100% black and white. So I'm going to take the brush right around, I'd say 30. And make this an overlay layer. So right there. Take the opacity down, 68. Just kind of go on the back row. All right, and then what I want to do, I'm going to take this Army BG, I'm going to right click. First, I have to get my recording thing out of the way. I'm going to right-click and convert to Smart Object. And then what that allows you to do, it works much like an adjustment layer. Because if you add a filter and you go to Blur, Gaussian Blur. Oh, no. Oops, that's the wrong one. Yeah, no, I'm right. Sorry. Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Take this amount down drastically. I think 0.8 might work pretty well, so hit OK. We go to 100%. So now they're in the they're blurred out a little bit. It makes these guys a little bit more realistic. And also want to take them and do the same thing, except not that amount of blur. It was 0.8 before, so right-click, convert to Smart Object, filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and we'll try maybe 0.3. Okay, hit OK. And then do the same thing with these guys over here. So right click, convert to smart object, filter, Gaussian blur, and 0.3. All right, looking pretty good so far. We're already at 20 minutes, so I think this is going to be a good place to stop for today and continue on tomorrow. All right, I'll see you then.